Hi there, these are some videos for focus training. This is the textbook and I'm doing some videos on the 3 principles of the focus training. However, I'm going to talk about connection now. Connection is not one of the principles of focus training. However, really it encompasses all the principles at once. I do mention it in particular on page 7 in the book as object of interest here. What I would like to say about connection is that what you connect to has a massive effect on your experience of life. If you haven't already, have a look at the video on the first principle and have a look at the video on the second principle, and then come to this video, because we've been discussing things that are relevant to this discussion now, and I don't want to go over them again. I want to go straight into the connection. So in the second principle, we understood that we can visit places within ourselves, and for the purposes of the focus training there are 2. One is the mind and one is the real you, hidden inside yourself. Normally, let's imagine in your stomach area. Now, if you're visiting the mind, as I said, you will be doing a mind-focused activity, and what this is, it's something that engages with your mind. Okay, it engages with your mind, and it could be you thinking about the future, about the past, or it could be on a computer, gaming, scrolling, social media, etc. Now let's pause there for a minute. Why do you think people like using the computer and the internet and the chat bots and the social media so much? It's not just that they give you a hormonal high, or maybe that is a result of what I'm going to say. Maybe we do get hormonal highs because of another reason. The reason that we are so loving the internet, and a lot of us have fallen into the screen, is because as human beings, as the real human beings, animals on this earth, for thousands of years we've operated by connecting to the things around us and the people around us, and that's where we get good feelings from. In fact, that's where we get feelings from. That's how we work out what's going on around us, and that's where we get our feelings from. That's how our brain works out what's happening, and that's how the brain can guide us into doing stuff that enables us to survive, because it feels good. So we could say, from an evolution point of view, that it's really important, our connection to stuff, because that's how the brain works out where we are, it works out what we're doing, and if it's good for us, the brain gives us a good hormonal feel. I'm sure you know all the names. Dopamine is one of them. There's lots, right? And the brain gives us that, so we keep doing it, because it's good for us. It makes us feel good. It makes our little group we're in thrive. So if I hug my child, that feels good. And we need to hug our children because we need to look after them so they grow up and we, as a human being, as a species, keep going. That's why connection's so important, because it tells the brain what's going on. Right. The reason that we're so drawn into screens and computers and social media and chatbots, etc., is because it's the same thing. We're connecting to something that our brain believes is real when it's not. It's not real because we're connecting through our mind. and our mind is different from the real you. There's lots of information about this on other courses I run in the Energy Dynamic Model Academy, but I don't want to talk about that now. I just want us to understand the importance of connection. So what I'm saying is that before the thousands of years, we connected to our environment and we worked out how to be in our environment, what to connect with, what made us feel good, what to avoid if it made us feel bad. And as a species, that's how we kept going for thousands and thousands, maybe even millions of years. I don't know. But what's happened is, with the advent of computers and screens and social media and gaming, if we visit our mind, principle number 2, and engage in mind activities, it mimics the connection. It mimics it. You could say it in another way. The computer, the internet, the screen has hijacked our natural ability and fundamental need to connect to the world. And it's hijacked that. It's hijacked it and it's mimicking it. And it's giving the mind experiences that actually can create the same hormones that we get when we hug our child or walk in the forest. The brain is creating these same hormones, even though we're getting the signal from the mind about something that's not real and actually doesn't matter. The brain understands that you're connecting to something, and that something is giving you a chemical hit. Therefore, the brain will judge whether or not to stay in that place. And if it's a good feeling, the brain will judge that you need to stay in that place, which is why it's so difficult to come off these screens, because the brain thinks it's good for you. Because from an evolutionary point of view, when it was just us and other people and trees and things, if we hugged and it was good, we stay there because we needed to stay together in a group that cared and nurtured us so we could survive. This need to connect, as I said, encompasses all the principles, and it has been manipulated. It is being manipulated and confused with screens. Okay. The other thing about connection is, say we're not on a screen, because you're on a screen now, obviously. Say you're not on a screen, and say going about your day, and say you spend most of your day not on a screen, which is great. By the way, because of the way the brain works, it works very much on patterns. So if you're not on a screen for very much, you'll be perfectly all right, because your main pattern will be to be in reality doing stuff. So that will be your main pattern. And when you do go on a screen to do a bit of work, to catch up with your friends, to watch these videos, that's fine, because your brain will still be collecting up slightly corrupted messages, but it doesn't matter, because there'll only be a tiny percentage of what you're picking up most of the day, and that's okay. That's okay. All right, that's okay, because you're getting most of your feelings and experiences, etc., from being the real you in your body in a form. And that's natural, that's animal, that's how we work, that's what we need to survive. That's good for our health and well-being. So that will be our main default pattern. So going on the computer for a while is fine. I'm just explaining that if we connect to the computer too much, how dangerous that is. Anyway, so we've left the mind, we've decided to visit the real you that's inside yourself. So you're walking around, seeing your friends, having a cup of tea. That connection, just be aware, is, again, it actually defines your experience of life. So make sure, and again, I've got lots of courses on this. I do cover it in the focus book. But I've got the focus book. Really, this focus training is just really the first step in the whole world of the energy dynamic model, which is all about discovering the real you and how your mind works, and how to enable your mind and who you are and what you do and how you feel and how you present to the world to be in line, so you can have a great experience of life and actually find purpose and meaning to do what you're doing, etc. Right? Anyway, so if we're in the real world and we're connecting, make sure you're connecting to something that means something to you. The focus training has a practical element to it, which are called focus training circles. And in the focus training circles, what we do is we put this into practice, and then you can actually experience what I'm talking about. Once you start to connect with something that has meaning to you, you get a feeling of purpose. You're doing it with other people. You can start to gather up feelings of identity because you're in a group. You start to feel loved. You start to feel cared for. Guess what? Your health improves. Your mental health improves, etc., etc. Your mind calms down and you can see more clearly. So there is a practical part of focus training that shows you this in real time every day. Right? So I can prove this to you. So if you connect to something that is to do with who you are, again, what that means, what that is in the focus book and in the Energy Dynamic Model Training Academy. But with the focus training, what you connect to is very important, right? So if it's something that, as I said, reflects the real you, great, you'll get a good feeling from it and you'll start to build yourself up with good feelings. However, if it's just stuff that I talk about on page 6 or page 7, if it's just stuff, your life's going to be pretty meaningless because it's stuff. What do I mean by stuff? I mean things like gossip, again, thinking too much in the future, thinking too much about the past. Nothing wrong, of course, with having a bit of a time out, escape world. Well, it isn't an escape world, just a bit of time out where it's not really important and it doesn't have any meaning, just as a break. Absolutely fine. But if you're spending most of your time connecting to stuff, then your life is going to get meaningless, basically. It's not because there's something wrong with you, it's just because you're connecting in the wrong way. Okay? So, in a nutshell, connection. Connection through the mind. Watch out. It's very addictive because that has the screens and things like that have hijacked our connection ability, and it's kind of corrupted it and manipulated it, which is why we think that gaming and social media is so important, because it's the way the social media and the algorithms work have mimicked the way we are set up to survive. Okay, so watch it. I'm sure an hour or so is fine, but watch it. Also in the real world, if you're connecting to stuff that's not really anything much to do with you, what that means we look at more deeply in other courses. But stuff is things that is around you and just going on and busy and noise. Sometimes we can get very distracted by that. Nothing wrong with doing that for a bit to have a break, but if you do it all the time, you'll feel bad. And also if you start to connect with things that have meaning to you and purpose, focus training shows you how to do that. And not only does focus training show you how to do that, focus training has a practical element to it. in a circle and you can actually see what's going on, and it is incredibly mind-blowing. Right, I'm going to stop talking about connection now, and I'm going to get on to the third principle. Thank you very much.